The Mausoleum of Gül Baba. The Mausoleum of Gül Baba is one of the most beautiful and best preserved remnants of the Ottoman architecture in Hungary, having escaped the storms of several centuries mostly unharmed. Over the next few minutes, we would like to invite you on a journey through time to experience how the mausoleum and its surroundings might have looked a few centuries ago, and how the structure has changed since then. In order to imagine what the mausoleum and its surroundings looked like when it was erected on the northern hills of Buda in the 16th century, we can use etchings, which were mostly created during the 1686 siege of Buda. One of the most characteristic examples is the engraving by Giovanni Domenico Fontana. This piece clearly shows the mausoleum as having a centralized layout and being covered by a dome. Not far from it, you can see the ruins of the Dervish Lodge at the foot of the hill. Gül Baba, Father Rose, belonged to the Bektashi order of Sufi dervishes, that is, Muslim monks, and arrived in Hungary with the Ottoman forces that occupied Buda. We know little about him, but in the role of the Ottoman spiritual patron in Buda or Göcü, he gave rise to numerous legends in his lifetime. However, it is certain that he died in 1541 and was buried on a hill in the northern part of Buda, nowadays called Rózsadomb, Rose Hill. Above his grave, between 1543 and 1548, a mausoleum in Turkish türbe was erected during the governorship of Yahya Pasazadeh Mehmed. The mausoleum of Gül Baba is very characteristic of Ottoman shrines of the 16th, 17th centuries. Although the building was modified several times after the Ottoman occupation, its original condition have been well preserved due to restorations in the 20th century and heritage protection works that was completed in 2018. The building has a centralized octagonal layout. The area it encloses is delimited with limestone walls. The building is covered by a semi-spherical brick dome, which was originally plated with lead. The crescent-shaped decoration on top, the alim, points towards Mecca. The main entrance of the building also faces toward Mecca. During the Ottoman occupation, there was a porch roof over the entrance. All that remains of it now is two bracket stones on either side of the entryway. We can imagine how it might have looked in the past by drawing on similar buildings of the time. During the Ottoman era, the walls of the mausoleum were covered with a base of layer of pink plaster and the snow-white paint, just as they are today. The tomb of Gül Baba is located underneath the hexagonal Sheshkhane brick-covered floor and is perpendicular to the direction of Mecca. Similar to the wooden coffin or sonduk, a symbolic grave marker that is located precisely above the actual tomb. The sonduk is covered with a richly embroidered cloth, and its headstone displays the Taji Sharif, the dodecagonal headgear characteristic of the Bektashi dervishes. It was typical for the Ottomans to use the environs of a mausoleum to bury their dead. The Muslim graves were oriented southwest-northeast, similarly to the tomb of Gül Baba and the Sanduk. Such graves are typically marked by carved headstones. The turbans on the headstones provide information about the deceased. During the Ottoman era, a monastery, tekke, for Bektashi dervishes was constructed close to the mausoleum. The ruins of the tekke are visible at the foot of the hill in the Fontana etching. It is clear that the areas surrounding the mausoleum of Gül Baba in the northern Buda Hills became a significant pilgrimage site for the Ottomans. It was first referred to as Hill of Gül Baba or Gül Baba Tepesi in Turkish. The area between the hill and the Danube was rich in thermal springs, over which the Ottomans built baths. One of the characteristic examples of these is the hammam of Veli Bey, known today as the Çasar Baths. The building is so-called kaplica, a pool fed through the hot spring. It was constructed in 1574 by Sokulu Mustafa Pasha, the Governor-General of Buda. The kitabe, or stone inscription, contains the details of the construction of the baths. The hot springs operated not only the baths but also water mills, which worked throughout the winter, and a gunpowder mill. The Ottomans actually called this area Gunpowder Mill Quarter, Barutane Mahallesi. Armed conflicts at the end of the 16th century and the three sieges of Buda destroyed this area several times, leaving only a few significant buildings: the gunpowder mill, the baths, and the dervish lodge of Gül Baba operational. Following the Ottoman period, the area became the property of the Jesuits, who transformed the mausoleum into a chapel named after Saint Joseph. The Jesuits modified the building several times. The walls were opened up with new oval-shaped windows, the dome received the covering of wooden tiles, and a small addition lantern. In 1773, the city took over the area from the Jesuits and sold it. And from 1857, by the architect János Wagner, who built a pseudo-historical mansion for himself and his family. Although the Wagner Villa surrounded the mausoleum, pilgrims, diplomats, and other interested parties were allowed to visit it. The memory of the Wagner family is preserved by the outline of the walls of the villa and the chestnut tree that they planted. The 1900s ushered in a new era. The monument was officially added to the Register of Historic Buildings with the aim of gradually restoring the look of the original Ottoman edifice. Nearby Niedermayergasse was renamed Gül Baba Street at this time. During the Second World War, the environs of the mausoleum sustained some damage. New restoration work was carried out. An agreement was signed in 2015 by the Hungarian and Turkish deputy ministers that specified what heritage-related tasks were necessary for upkeep of the mausoleum and its immediate surroundings. These tasks included complex landscaping and were finally completed in 2018, presenting a fitting image of the mausoleum of Gül Baba to the public.